Cineverm. Hello and welcome to Cineverm, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today I'm joined by Helen Albee Cottingham.
Hello, it's me.
And this week we are discussing the 2012 film Ruby Sparks. And here is the synopsis. A novelist struggling with writer's block finds romance in a most unusual way by creating a female character he thinks will love him, then willing her into existence. All these synopsises are so weirdly written. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't make sense. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about Ruby Sparks. As always, we will begin with a non-spoiler discussion, and then after our ratings, we will go into the spoilers and discuss the minutia of this movie. So, I guess to begin, what did you think of Ruby Sparks?
I'm baffled by this movie. I still can't. Initially watching it, I didn't like it. I was annoyed by it. I was frustrated by it. I went in kind of expecting not to like it, and then I read about it after it was over, and then I felt extremely guilty and ashamed that I didn't like it because I didn't realize it was written by the lead actress. Mm-hmm. And that just broke my brain completely. I was like, wait, I need to give this a whole other chance. I need to reevaluate everything I think about this. Maybe I was being too judgmental. Maybe I was missing some of the satire that was there because it didn't feel enough like a satire to me.
Yeah.
And so, now I'm just stuck. I don't know how I'm going to rate this thing because we're just going to have to talk it out because I just feel completely cornered by this film.
Yeah. That is an interesting point because, like, we watched it together, and I think there was, like, a couple parts where I was like, this is totally written by a dude. Mm-hmm, Just because it was, like, how you're saying, like, the tone never made it obvious that it was dissecting or criticizing this thing, and there was never, at least in my perspective, there was never, like, a moment of, like, actual growth for any of the characters. Mm-hmm. And then it's just like, broadly speaking, the writing was so bad to me, like, tone-wise, and even, like, the delivery. So, like, a lot of it goes to blame to the director, who is a male. So maybe that he could have...
I thought it was a husband and wife team.
No, Paul Dano and the writer, Zoe Kazan, are together, but the director is the director of Little Miss Sunshine.
But they're a team too, right? They're a husband and wife?
Oh, like a three-way?
No.
Marriage?
No, like the director.
Oh.
Yeah, it's both of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's two directors.
Yeah, there's
Jonathan
two directors,
Bates
and they're a husband and wife team of directors.
Valerie Ferris.
Yeah.
This is... I'm peeking because I'm sorry.
You're so shocked. Yeah, so it isn't... You can't even blame a male director on the problems in this movie.
Well, so then the problem is just that they just kind of... they just kind of wrote a bad movie. They made a bad movie. I think it's as simple as that, and it's not anything else. Because, what was I saying earlier? Yeah, the tone of it just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it can't land anywhere. It can't make up its mind. Like, because you could go almost full horror with this movie, and I've seen reviews of this movie that argues that it's a horror movie. Yeah. And you could also go full satire. You could kind of go more science fiction. You could go full rom-com. You could go full drama. And it's, like, skirting the line of all of those things and landing on none of them.
Yeah. It's not, just like you said, it's not a good drama film. It's not a good romance, even the fake romance, and then it's not a good dissection of the ideas that they're trying to do. And then it doesn't execute any of them at all that felt original in any way. Like, even there was, like, moments where I think I was, like, saying it as we were watching, like, oh, and then this is gonna happen. And then it would take them, like, 5 minutes to get to a thing that I was already predicting. And then it was, like, the most boring version of that thing that I thought they could do. I don't know. It was very confusing, and I think it was just really bad. Like, it was just a bad movie. But yeah, it is very confusing, the circumstances.
Yeah, I feel so guilty about saying it's a bad movie because of Zoe Kazan. I don't want to tell her she's a bad writer. I don't want to tell her story is bad. But something was not right about this movie. The execution was screwed up. And I wonder if it's just like a bunch of friends making a movie together
Yeah.
and that was the energy.
Yeah.
Because I know that Paul Dano worked with these directors on Little Miss Sunshine. He
Mm-hmm.
brought this script to them that his girlfriend had written, and they were like, "This is great, we'll direct it." And so it just kind of has this vibe of like four people that just love just hanging out and making a movie, and no one was really questioning anything or pushing each other. They were in like sometimes a friendship atmosphere in a film reads as perfect, beautiful perfection, like in Hot Rod.
Yeah.
Like that was a bunch of people hanging out, having fun, a group of friends just making a movie, and it turned out perfectly. And this one feels like a group of friends hanging out making a movie, and it falls flat.
Yeah. So I think an interesting thing too is like, because we're both writers, and I feel like, at least in my perspective, when you start with a idea or concept, you usually produce a worse story because all you're focused on is presenting this idea instead of having like an emotional character driven piece or something more intellectual, or at least in my opinion, I like emotion. So like if it doesn't tap into that, then it's a failure, even if it's the most genius concept, which this film does have, like a genius concept. Like it's the perfect concept that I would enjoy because it's like me. It's like it's perfect. But I feel like how you were saying, like they're just a bunch of friends making a movie. It feels like they came up with all these ideas and then they made it, but they didn't actually like do any deeper layer of introspection or analysis or like emotional digging. Because like I can imagine like a Kaufman version of this, or I can imagine a version of this like directed by someone else who was just like very extreme in an emotional or like physical kind of way. I don't know, but this is just like I don't know. It's just so bad. I'm kind of like running out of things to talk about. Was there any like technical stuff that you noticed that you did like, or?
No, I can't really think of anything. I do just want to say that I chose this movie entirely because I thought it would get
Yeah.
under your skin. Like little
it did.
inside baseball, I was like, this is going to make Anthony feel called out. He's going to make him want to rewrite it because, yeah, sad writer man imagines perfect girl. Sorry to attack you in this way, Anthony, but this is a part of being my friend.
Yeah.
Is that I'm
Yeah.
going to find ways to antagonize you. And so I knew about this movie and I was like, this is like bait for Anthony's
Yeah.
rage. And so we have to watch it. So I got exactly what I wanted. My evil plan
Yeah, it
worked perfectly.
It was cringy. It was a cringy experience.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, the thing you tapped into that I don't know if I've told you is like I love movies about creators or creation.
About writers, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even like other artists, like just the act of someone making something is like infinitely exciting to me because I feel like it's the hardest thing in the world to like make something. And then yeah, on that side, this is like one of the worst movies about writing that I've ever seen. Like it captured none of the feelings or experiences of being a writer for me. Maybe maybe Zoe Kazan felt like this when she was writing this, but just in my experience, like I didn't feel any relatability. Like even the typewriter and just the method, like I don't know. And then we never even really. Well, that I'll leave that for the spoilers. But yeah, I guess one positive thing I did like I do like generally like Paul Dano, and I think even though his character's very weak and underwritten, I do like what he's doing with his body and like how he was embodying that. The same thing with the actress. I think she's probably a fantastic actress in the right role, but I liked how she at least committed to the words that she wrote for herself and the actions. Like
Her physicality was great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like especially the ending, even though I wanted more out of it, what she was delivering as was given from herself to herself was, like I think the best version of what she could have done with that. There's like a saying, like a bad performance isn't because of a bad actor, it's because of a bad director. So I feel like the directors were more to blame on the tone part. Because you could literally take this script as written, and I think you could make it good if you just had the right perspective, like direction-wise, and like drew out the performances a different way. So I think it's their fault. But anyways, did you have any other points you'd want to discuss in the non-spoiler section?
No, I guess if you want to see Paul Dano's butt a lot,
Oh my god! Yeah,
then watch this movie. You don't see his bare ass, but you do see there's so many shots where it's somehow central. And we were like clocking them, like, there's his butt again. There it is again. What is going on with the cinematographer and Paul Dano's butt? So, like, maybe if you want to play a drinking game where you drink every time, his butt is prominently in the shot, that might be real fun. So that's the end of that.
That was the most enjoyable aspect of this movie was that. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like all the other technical stuff, I can't even think of anything else to mention. Like I didn't particularly remember the score or enjoyed that or the sound design or the editing or the cinematography or the set designs or the costume designs or yeah.
And you didn't like the montage?
Oh yeah, I hate montages so much. Set to music and then happy couples dancing. That doesn't happen, right? Have you ever Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, are we moving to the next section?
Next section. So, Helen, what would you rate this movie out of 10?
A 4, I guess. It's a little bit less good than a baseline movie, but not horrific.
Okay. That's interesting. That's the exact score I was gonna give it.
Oh, we both gave it a 4.
Yeah, 2 4s. Oh my gosh! And then, would you recommend it to anyone?
No.
Yeah. Even like a die-hard Paul Dano fan, you think they'd?
I think if you want to, because he's charming in his weird, freaky way in this movie. You get a lot of shots of his butt, like we said.
Yeah, I'd recommend it to the die-hard Paul Dano fans.
Yeah,
And that's basically it. If you're like me who likes watching movies about writers, I would not recommend it. It will frustrate you. Okay, so that concludes our review portion of Ruby Sparks. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now, and while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com, and be sure to check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, be sure to check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do shorter solo reviews. And then also check out Movies for Decades, a podcast where Helen and her brothers Colin and John discuss films through the decades. It's really awesome. Go check it out. But okay, now to the spoilers.
Yeah. Do we want to break down the characters? Best character was the dog. But that's generally my opinion in all films where there is a dog.
But he was poorly named. That was like the first moment where I was like, I'm just going to hate this film.
Yeah. What was his name?
I think it was Scotty.
Yeah, it was Scotty.
For F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald.
I guarantee you no human has ever called F. Scott Fitzgerald Scotty as a nickname.
Yeah.
Maybe a Fitzgerald scholar can educate me.
But yeah, that just immediately makes this like a cheap writer bro that his dog is named after F. Scott Fitzgerald. And like, again, probably supposed to be satire, probably felt clever on the page, felt obnoxious in the movie.
Yeah, it read serious. And it read like an honest kind of thing that these characters were doing where, yeah, like if the point was to make it cringy, it didn't read as that. Because, just like, he's the best writer of all time.
Yeah, and Scotty is a very cute dog and a very sweet, good boy.
Yeah.
And I was captivated by that dog's performance. Doggy Oscar goes to Scotty.
Yeah. I think there was even a scene where, like, they're fighting, and then we kind of, like, follow the dog.
And he walks away, and he kind of looks like, humph, they're fighting again.
Sits on the couch. I was like, I want that movie. I just want a movie with a dog, and then there's a bad relationship around him.
And he's just, sadly going and eating his food.
He's just living his best life. A dog's tale.
Yeah. Great. Yes. So Scotty.
Is there a manic pixie dream dog?
Trope?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the dog who dies.
Oh, yeah.
That's a trope, but we don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
Scotty survives, everyone.
Scotty lives,
He's fine.
Oh, my gosh. But yeah, I guess the other... I don't even know what in specifics because I feel like I've forgotten so much of the
You've
film.
blocked this movie out a little bit.
I guess the one thing that I want to talk about is the end. That's like the biggest point of contention for me, where I got really frustrated with the movie. And I guess I was gonna ask you like what your opinion of the ending was when he was like live rewriting her. He tells her the whole spiel that she's a
She's
creation.
a figment of his imagination. Yeah.
What'd you
Which,
think
what
about
a
that?
clever concept for this movie. Again, just want to say it's super cool that a writer starts to write a character and he loves her so much that he says he can't wait to get home and write some more so he can spend time with her, and somehow she comes to life. Like, wow, that's genius. Yeah, you present that to me, I want to watch that movie right now. But yes, then his ability to change her depending on what he writes, and the big climax where he's making her snap her fingers and shout in French and all of that stuff. Like, I think that was powerful. I did like how painful it looked to her. Like, the physicality of her performance, like you said, was really amazing.
Yeah.
And it was really excruciating. And I think that it honestly was the part of the movie that landed the hardest.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the fact that she vanished once he said, and she was gone, and all of her clothes are just out of the closet like she was never there, and he's in the floor and, crying, and that was all really powerful. And I feel like maybe the movie should have ended there, and instead there was this weird moment
God, I forgot
where
about
he
that.
meets her again, and that's the part that screwed me completely up and feels like, what even was this movie saying, and what even is going to happen now, and where did she even come from? And my suspension of disbelief is broken now. So that's
Yeah.
the ending that I hated, was where he's written this book about her and it's a bestseller, and then he sees her reading that book on a picnic blanket in the park, and they have a conversation. And I was just like, this is too many layers. The universe is folding in on itself in too many ways now, and I can't anymore, and please let this movie be over so I don't have to think about this anymore.
Yeah. And it was that scene was so cringy too, because just the way her character is talking to him, and it's like, I found this book. Like, everything felt so airy in like a weird way with both of them. Well, with all the characters, like it almost felt like yeah, it was supposed to be making fun of these tropes or whatever, but it just read as bad. But like when he introduces himself and they're talking, and then she's like kind of aware but not aware that he's the author. Like, there was this weird performance that they were giving back and forth. At least that's what like I felt.
I don't think she knew who he was, and then he like held up the picture of himself on the dust jacket, and she went, "Oh no, I'm so embarrassed. I said the book was pretentious," and it was like a meet cute.
Yeah,
But
I think that's the meet cute. Like I recently saw that in a movie me and David reviewed called Fresh, and I just like wanted to shut everything off. Like, just stop.
You don't like meet cutes in general?
No.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
But so how do couples meet in your stories? Is it not cute at all? It's
No.
always just very generic?
Well,
What?
it's just realistic.
Oh, okay.
Like, I just think meet cutes are so annoyingly fake.
Yeah.
Like this, like you have the perfect line, you have this perfect joke.
In the situation that's like the stars aligning.
Yeah, it's like, what? Who are you? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate that so much. And then it just always feels fake. Like, it feels like I'm watching two people act.
Yeah.
Like, I think a movie that does it brilliantly is The Worst Person in the World, where when she meets these two men, it feels real.
Yeah, one's at a bar, one's at a wedding party.
Yeah. And then it feels like two humans interacting. And it's
Yeah.
awkward, and it is kind of cute. But it's not this, like, hugely expressionistic cute.
It's not like, you also have a Keats poem tattooed on your arm?
Yeah,
like, what the hell? Who has, or whatever, yeah.
It's always too excessive.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I dislike that. And then the other thing I really, like, another big pet peeve of any film showing an artist or, like, writer specifically, like, if we don't see what they're writing, like, if I don't hear the words that they wrote or, like, watch what they're writing being portrayed, then I think it's a failure. Like, an absolute failure, because like I think that's such an important part of writing is like, well, I mean, as a writer, you're writing it, so you're experiencing what you're writing. And I think something that a lot of movies about writers fail at is we never see what they feel as they're writing, or like their creation being formed in their head.
And they were trying to do that with this movie in the most literal way possible.
Yeah, but like if this was like if the whole movie, and like that's the other thing I'm confused by, like is the everything we watched, is that the book that he ended up writing? Like the
Yeah. I don't know.
oh god, it breaks my logic brain.
Yeah, it
'Cause
does.
if
it breaks me too.
If
real
it
bad.
was, no one would ever read that book. It was just awful. There's no, especially like a novel. You know, like out of a novel, you expect some sort of deeper introspection or learnings, especially if it's such a big hit. And then especially if it's, you know, labeled as pretentious by another person. There was nothing like really pretentious about the events that unfolded leading up to that
Yeah.
end, in my opinion. But
Yeah, and the characters in this movie that made me, I guess I want to go into more of like, I am still shocked and reeling from the fact that this was written by a woman, and not just any woman, but the lead actress. She wrote this for herself. Like, this was her passion project. Like, this was something that she worked on and probably was believed in with her whole heart, you know? And that's just... yikes.
yeah.
And I feel like this is making me scared that this is how it's going to turn out. If I ever write anything, I'm going to be like crying over it and being like, this is going to win Best Picture. And then it's going to be Ruby Sparks.
I mean, yeah, that is a real fear. I have another movie idea that, because I've always thought this was a fascinating idea, because like when you're writing, you know, there is that doubt, like you're saying, like this could just be awful, and maybe it's just my perception of it is like plaguing the reality of what it is to other people. And I've always thought, like, what if you are like the worst writer and you just don't know it? And like I have like a book or movie idea where it's like you're following a character who thinks they're a pretty decent writer and they're like trying, and then you sympathize with them, but they're also just the worst writer ever. Like, all their writing is just horrible. And I think that'd be like a funny, despairing idea.
Yeah, self-critique, fear, embodiment.
But I don't know. Like, I just don't understand how, like, because you have to imagine they like watched this multiple times. They were on set. They edited it. The premiere.
Yeah, and it got good reviews. I was reading around on the internet, like, well-regarded reviewers in real publications gave this movie high ratings and praised it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, is it just me that doesn't get this? I mean, but that episode of The Take I made you watch where they deconstructed Manic Pixie Dream Girls, shout out to The Take, great YouTube channel. They did kind of lean and say this movie wasn't necessarily enjoyable while it was trying to be a critique.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for her. I feel so much empathy for her. Like, it's supposed to be about a male writer who's struggling and who's kind of a loser. And I feel like for me, the whole experience was female writer that's struggling.
Yeah.
And ouch.
Oh, the reality.
Yeah, the reality of it. Yeah. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Like,
Oh my god.
but yeah, okay. A moment where I was watching the movie being like, God, this was so written by a man, was the brother character.
Oh my god, yeah.
Where he is such a bro. He's so two-dimensional, and he's like lifting weights and talking about hot chicks. And is like, but then I guess it maybe makes sense that a woman wrote that, because it's like the kind of blanket, non-developed male character that women often are in movies. And again, maybe it was intentional, and maybe it was supposed to be satirical, and again it fell flat because that guy just seemed like an asshole and seemed like a flat two-dimensional underwritten character. I didn't ever really believe that he was his brother. They didn't look anything alike. They didn't seem any kind of close until the end. It would have made more sense if that was just his friend.
Yeah. Even at the end, there was no, and like I think that's a huge flaw of the director. Like, there's no chemistry between these two people, and like I didn't honestly felt any chemistry between Paul Dano and Zoe, and
even though they're married.
Like, there's no chemistry there. And I think that's a, you know, like they say, like the hardest thing or the main job of a director is like tone management and like making sure all these desperate pieces fit together and it feels like one cohesive film. And like I think that never lined up, especially with like the brother character. Like even like when he's working out it didn't feel like we were supposed to laugh at it or anything. Like it just
Yeah.
felt like this is real life, and oh, you gotta
This is
do
what
this.
guys do is they meet at the gym and have conversations about relationships.
And even like the car conversation later on, where he's like, "What do you mean you made up a girl? You can make her do anything, bro."
Yeah, yeah.
And like he never says what he means, but we all know what he's
Yeah.
like kind of implying. Like she can do anything,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And I just feel like in reality, it would probably be said out loud
Yeah.
what he's saying. Like I could do what?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. So it didn't feel angry enough either. Like I guess I was gonna ask you this question. Like, what do you think about films or books that like try to analyze an idea by deconstructing it, but they're using the same tropes to deconstruct it? Like, what is your opinion of that? Because,
What's another example?
well, for example, yeah, I don't know another example. Like I was gonna say Eternal Sunshine, but I think Eternal Sunshine breaks the tropes by not having the tropes.
Yeah.
I don't know. The last thing, for some reason, the thing I think of, there was a Simpsons game,
Yeah.
and it was making fun of like video game tropes, like you have to collect 20 coins to move on,
Yeah.
or like your character falls into water and then the whole game resets because
Yeah.
for some reason this character can't swim, and so why did we put water there?
Yeah.
And like I remember playing that game and it was funny, but then I was like, this game sucks because it has all the
It's-
bad things in video games.
Yeah, it's unpleasant to play. Yeah. Satires, I guess. If something is satirizing something so perfectly that it doesn't feel like a satire anymore, and it's like fallen in on itself and is just the thing that it was trying to make fun of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but because I love a good satire, I love those kinds of stories. I seek them out, I think.
So I guess the problem here is that it didn't have that clear perspective of we're making fun of this.
Yeah, it didn't
This
go
is
hard
bad.
enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it needed to have been like a scary horror movie.
Yes.
Or it needed to be laugh out loud funny beginning to end. Or it needed to be extremely sad. It
Yeah.
needed to be something.
Oh my god, are all three?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Okay, yeah.
But instead it was just, and Paul Dano's kind of cute and kind of sweet, and I kind of felt bad for him. And he was supposed to be this nasty man that can't learn. And that whole moment in the beginning that I really loved where he first sees her in his house after he's been writing her all this time, and then suddenly she's in his kitchen, a real physical person, and how scared he was, and how he was like hiding under his desk and like calling his therapist and being like, "This is not okay. I need to see you today." And I was like, I relate to this. I'm with the movie now. Like that is how I would react. I would be like, I'm schizophrenic. I'm hallucinating. Someone slipped me acid. Like something very bad is happening. Like
Yeah.
I would definitely hide under something and call like everyone I know crying to like, please come save me because I'm having a mental break. And then instead he just kind of gets up and leaves and calms down and just decides to accept her as part of his life.
Yeah.
And then the movie completely lost me.
Yeah. Like there was no realistic questioning or anything that happened. And I guess that's the thing I really feel like this film failed at, is like that scene, like you saying the events of what happened is more exciting than what happened in the actual movie.
Yeah.
Like it was just the shots and the direction of that sequence was like the most boring, like plain, almost like it was weird because it felt like an indie darling kind of film, like something that would be at Sundance where it's like very minimal and like restrained. And I think when you're trying to do a satire or something like this, you can't be, like a third person perspective. Like you have to pick a side for the satire to work, whether you're dissecting or making fun of it or angry about it or whatever. And yeah, like that whole sequence, like it was so boring. And that should have been like an exciting, funny, enjoyable moment of feeling what Paul Dano was feeling.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, what a missed opportunity to have like a great interrogation sequence, or like,
And it could have even kind of been like a horror movie where he's like trying to get away from her in his house and her shadow could fall across and he could like hide, and it could be a little Jurassic Park moment where the doorknob turns. Like it could have been so
Oh my
thrilling and
God.
exciting and fun, and it wasn't any of those things.
God, I want to see your version of this movie. Like that sounds freaking exciting.
Yeah, I think I would have made it a thriller if I had made this movie. I would have
Yeah.
made it a straight up suspenseful thriller about a man who can't figure out if he's going insane or if this is real.
Yeah.
Like psychological thriller all the way. That's what I wanted it to lean into, and it didn't at all.
Oh my god, yeah.
But how would you have rewritten it? Because that's what I was also very interested in, because I feel like this is a story idea that you would have from the rudimentary knowledge of your writing that I know, and like you even are a fan of Paul Dano, you're a fan of the writing process and deconstructing that, and so like how would you have fixed or changed or
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, when you shared the movie with me and I read the synopsis, I was like, oh my god, that's genius. How did I not think of that?
Yeah.
Because, like, I write a lot about writers. But what's interesting is I've never written about a writer wanting other people to be something. Like, it's like, I don't know, I guess just like my life or something. Like, I've never had a fascination with, like, making someone do something for me or having someone be something for me. Like that's never been a point of interest. Where I think to come up with this idea, you would have had that like little nugget in you. Like, what if I could write my dream job?
Yeah.
What if I could write my dream girl? What if I could write myself to have $1 million? Like that kind of like weird fantasy has never been of interest to me for some reason. And I don't know, most of my writers are just like depressing failures.
Yeah, but I mean, he was in the beginning of this a depressed failure.
But see, like even that aspect, like I don't understand what he was like sad or like we didn't get enough like.
He had written one great book when he was a teenager and hasn't written anything else since, except for a short story collection, which didn't seem like it had.
Yeah, but I didn't feel that. Or like
the desperation.
Yeah, or like that didn't feel real. It just felt like a bullet point in the film or something. But that's interesting because like I do have a bunch of stories about someone, or I have a novel. I think I told you, or a film. I think I told you the other day. And it's about a writer who writes this like YA fiction bestseller, and then he has to write a sequel, but he doesn't want to, and then he gets like writer's block and stuff. But what would I rewrite it as? Well, I told you an idea I had that I won't say all of it because I'm going to hold it. But I think for this film specifically, I think what should have happened is, you know, he writes her, she becomes real. And then what should have happened is the film should have slowly started to like investigate her growing. Like, I think I would have like gone more like the her route where she is this like perfect dream girl that's supporting and helpful in all things or whatever, and then I would have had her get bored of him.
And she did in the middle of the movie, and then he saw it happening and freaked out and ran upstairs and changed it to where she was obsessed with him again.
Yeah.
And it broke her, and she was crying, and she was like doing the thing where she wouldn't let go of his hand, and that was very relatable to me because that's what it's like to have a 4-year-old where she was like, don't let go of me, don't ever leave me, no, hold me. And I was like, wow, this is what I experience every day. Only it's kind of weird that this is his girlfriend, whereas with me it's my child, and she's literally just, mama, look at my face. No, stop, keep looking at my face, mama. Like, and so that's literally how he rewrote Ruby Sparks to be, was basically a codependent child. And that was creepy and gross and heavy-handed. And then he tried to fix it, and he made her too wild and happy and manic, and they had that scene where she's splashing around in the pool. Yeah, it was all just so out of control in a weird way in this movie.
But yeah, the thing I think I would have been interested in her having like agency, or like somehow her breaking the script or breaking the typewriter. And that's the other thing. The film doesn't really cement what is the magical thing making this happen, or if we should even care about that. But yeah, because like, I mean, we watched that YouTube video that you mentioned, the take, and it's just interesting how, to my knowledge, I'm trying to think back, maybe you can answer this more clearly, but it seems like we've never had a manic pixie dream girl, in air quotes, be like a protagonist.
Yeah, she's always the object of the male's desire. Even Annie Hall, that she's the title character, but she's not the main character. Woody Allen's the main character, and she's not really a manic pixie dream girl. But yeah, all these women that are these objects of perfection and these held on a pedestal, beautiful, perfect vehicles for growth for men are never the protagonist.
Yeah. And I think that is the most disgusting, sexist part of the whole trope of it. Is
Yeah.
that they're not the
And it's like, what
protagonist.
the hell, Zoe? Like, you wrote
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and it's for you.
Wouldn't it have been crazy if it had been from Ruby's perspective and she slowly figures out that she's being written?
Oh my God.
And the betrayal of that and the horror that, like, this man that you think you love and you feel safe with is, in fact, it's like finding out you're being gaslit, but times 1,000.
Oh
You're
my
not just being gaslit, you are literally being mind controlled and created out of nothing. And how terrifying that would be. It would be the best horror movie.
That is so freaking genius. Holy shit. Okay, so yeah, like imagine the film just opens and we are with her. And you know, it's just like a normal, nice,
She meets them on the picnic blanket and she's like, I love your dog Scotty, and it's their meet cute.
Oh my God, yeah. And then they're like, oh yeah, we should hang out. And then like you see everything, and then maybe like how you were saying you'd make it more like dramatic or stressful or like more of a thriller.
Yeah.
We start getting those aspects where she like wakes up and she feels different and she's like, I don't know, I just suddenly I want to go out or something,
Yeah.
you know, like, and we see all his
It's like, I've never really
changings.
wanted to play DDR before, but now I just got to. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Yeah.
And then you as the viewer, you'd be like, oh, she's like becoming this manic pixie dream girl or whatever.
Yeah.
But and then you do the like plot twist that she realizes she's being written. And,
Yeah.
oh my God. And that'd be so easy. Like, I feel like you could re-edit this movie to do that. Like, if, like if we could just like, you know, cut scenes a certain way to where she's the protagonist, cut all the bullcrap with him where he's talking to his brother, because none of that added anything to the narrative.
No, it didn't at all.
And then just like remove all the audio and like the score, and like slap on like a thriller movie score.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That would-
Psycho.
yeah, that would-
Nerd.
Yeah, and make it black and white and just like zoom in and different crops and stuff. Oh, that would be so fun. I've always thought about doing that, like re-editing movies. Man, but yeah, that is the perfect version of this movie.
I did it.
Yeah.
I asked you to do it.
We might have to cut that out so you can actually write that version.
No.
I'm
I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God. Well, I guess what other things do we have to talk about?
I want to shout out the brother a little bit. Part of his inconsistency with his character was that he did have a nice moment where, like, he would be this gross bro. I don't know why I'm so hung up on him, but I really, really am. Mm-hmm. He would be this gross bro, and then he would be kind of like this wise sage, and he would waffle back and forth. But the scene where he was talking about his wife and how much he loved her and how he feels like he could lose her at any time because she left him once, I feel like that was a weirdly nice moment in this movie. A weird heart-to-heart. Where he was kind of talking, because he was the one that was very skeptical of Paul Dano and being like, you can't just have this girl that you made up.
No.
This isn't, she's not real. Like, she's a fantasy and that's gross. He was kind of the only character saying that. Weirdly, the gross bro was the only character saying that, which I have a problem with.
But it was after he initially was like, you can make her do
it. Yeah. So yeah, he's just very inconsistent as a character, which, I mean, I guess people are inconsistent and people go back and forth, but I don't know.
See, as like I've read a lot of screenwriting books, and you have to have like certain beats, and that felt like something that is just instilled in a lot of like screenwriters in like modern Hollywood isms, is like you have to have an outside character move the like emotional narrative by being like a wisdom person. And since that was the only other character that they had planted early on, because there's another like rule in screenwriting where you have to like introduce all the characters within the first 30 pages or whatever bullcrap. So it felt like, oh well, we already have this douche bro character, like it would make more sense for him to be also the wisdom person. Like, and it makes sense in a script way,
but
like,
it doesn't make sense in a people way.
It doesn't make sense in a people way, which is why I hate so many of those rules, because you're making too many things have to line up to fit for like because of the page count, or because of like, oh well, it just becomes easier for the watcher to only follow 3 characters versus 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah. And so it would have. Yeah, I liked that moment in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it was said and it needed to be said. That like you need to the person that you love and that you're spending your life with should be a person that you're grateful for and a person who has their own life and can make their own decisions, and you could realize they could leave at any time. That you realize that they maybe don't need you.
Yeah.
And you have to sit with that.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, great lesson hidden deep in this movie. But
it should have been the psychiatrist. Now that I'm thinking about
it should have been his agent.
Oh.
That's who I think should have said that. He should have had some wife that he's been with for 30 years. And is like, how have you made it work for so long? Instead, they made him kind of a gross predator that like convinced Ruby to to strip down to her underwear and go swimming with him. And I'm like, I roll Silver Fox gross predator. I'm tired of that character in every movie too. Like, I kind of wish he had been this sort of old man mentor that he kind of was presented as. He's his agent. He's the guy who discovered him. He's the guy who believes in his writing and is his hype man at these speaking events that he goes to. And if he had had like a wife who he had been with for 30 years and he's like, I just don't understand how y'all make it work. And he could have given that speech of like, she left me once and I realized she could leave at any time and she's her own person living her own life. And that would have been so much better than the weird bro brother saying that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten about the weird agent guy until you brought him up. And
Yeah, was he an agent? I think that's what he was.
He was, or like a publisher or a manager type.
Or a writer, fellow writer, but he was bragging about how he discovered Paul Dano.
Yeah. All the writing stuff I don't like. I don't like any of it. Like all the like culture and like business, like it didn't feel like what real writers go through. Mm-hmm. Or like novelists or whatever. And I don't know, so maybe that is the real reality, but it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I don't know how that world works either, but it did also feel kind of fake.
Yeah. Like I think like adaptation feels like a more succinct, like this is the life of a screenwriter. And it's very boring and lonely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of any other points to hit, and I can't think. Do you have anything else that you wanted to mention on this movie?
No, I'm trying to think of questions for you about this movie because I was really excited about your reaction to this movie.
Yeah.
That is entirely why I picked it. Like all my other picks for this season of Cineverm are things that I love and things that I want to submit to the Cineverm canon, or things that I specifically know are considered great movies that I'm very excited to see that I have never seen. And this was a wild card movie that I just threw into the mix to piss you off.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like one of the worst versions of that piss me off kind of movies, because it's like not offensive enough to like rile me up to the point where it's exciting to like rail on it. And then it's all confusing because of the dual male-female writers, or the male-female director and then the female writer.
Yeah.
It becomes like, well, now I don't want to make fun of this thing.
Exactly,
like...
me either. Yeah, and that was almost why I was like, let's not record an episode about this because I feel too guilty that this is the thing I threw down as a thing to rile you up because I didn't realize that she wrote this movie. Yeah. So this movie's a mess. It's complicated. It's weird. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how to feel about it. We watched it. Welcome, to our thoughts about it.
Yeah, but that's something else. Like I feel like is an issue that like female writers, directors, or like just in general female artists, and then also like other minority artists, there's always like this pressure to like your thing has to be good because it's such a limited pool of people that get to make stuff, and then it becomes like a huge challenge and upsetment when it's not good, and then you have like people defending like their work because they want to elevate it. And I don't know, I just think a lot of people like, someone could watch this and be like, oh, well, Zoe Kazan is a bad writer. And my perspective of the fact is, like, I think everyone can write a bad movie or book. And that doesn't define them as an artist or their capabilities. Just like actors frequently are in horrible movies giving horrible performances. And then the next year they win an Oscar and you're like, what happened? It's like, it could just be a bad day. Like any profession or work. there's days where you're probably like worse. It'd be better if you weren't present at work. Like that's how bad your work is that day. And I think just with the arts, people expect so much more out of people. And I don't think that should be a thing. And like people should be allowed to, like minorities and women, like should be allowed to make bad things without it ruining their careers or like subjugating them to any kind of thing that where like a white male dude gets to make 50 bad movies and still gets millions of dollars to make whatever adaptation of some stupid IP.
Yeah.
Where I feel like for everyone else, it's like you make one bomb and then your career's over or something.
It's not fair.
But luckily for her, and luckily for her, she did write another movie that I watched called Wildlife, which was way better than this movie. I think you would actually like it. Yeah, and it has Paul Dano directed it.
Oh.
And it's way better. So like I was actually kind of excited about the movie when I found that out, and that just proves like she's a good, like in my opinion, she's a good writer. It's just this
something about this did not work.
Yeah. And that's why that's something like, I don't know if you do, but like, do you like judge an artist on like specific works? Or like, cause what I do, I like to like watch everyone, like now I've seen both of her works, right? And now it's like what I perceive her as is an average of her two stories together. And like in my book, she's still a good writer. Or like, you know, like Stephen King or whatever big artist, you know, like it's not just one book that's bad or good. It's like I see them as an entire catalog of creations. Do you do that? Or
I mean, I'm not a big filmography person.
Yeah.
I just don't have time in my life. I want to watch everything. And so if I'm going to limit myself to a filmography, what if I don't want to watch every single one? I have to love, love, love a creator with my whole heart for me to want to do their filmography. Like I want to do Lynch's filmography. I did John Carpenter's filmography. I tried when I was a teenager to watch everything Audrey Hepburn was ever in. I don't think I succeeded. But I do that occasionally. But really, honestly, if a creator makes one thing that speaks to me, then I love them and I respect them. And it's really hard for me to shake that back out. They have to really betray me. They have to get canceled real bad.
Yeah.
And if a creator makes something terrible that I hate, I'll go back and give him another chance over and over and over again, like Zack Snyder. Like, I want him to be good, and everything he makes me mad. Yeah. Like, I have such a hatred relationship with that man, and I keep going back for more for some reason. Like, I'm really into giving people a chance, and I don't really write people off unless they do something truly egregious and disgusting. I'm trying to think of an example of that. Like, a movie that was just so upsetting and the worldview was so ugly that I just don't want anything to do with that creator. I guess Woody Allen.
Yeah.
And Charlie Chaplin.
Really?
Yes.
See, I don't know anything about.
Yeah. Well, you can listen to our very, very rough first episode of Movies for Decades where we talk about The Kid to feel about my feelings about Charlie Chaplin. I just don't know if I can go there with him anymore. I don't know if I can watch any more of his stuff. Like, it has to be extremely egregious.
Yeah.
So.
That's tough. Well, do you have another question or anything?
No, this movie, we watched it a while ago. We struggled to decide if we were going to record this at all. Yeah. I feel emotionally fraught about this movie. I didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend it.
I was going to ask you about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing, and like, what is your opinion of that? Unless you want to save it for another movie.
No, this is, because this is what I wanted out of this movie, was either an excessive, ridiculous manifestation of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl or a critique of it. And I feel like I got neither. And that's another big disappointment for me in this movie, because I found out about this movie because of the clips from it on the Take video. Yeah. And I was like, what is that strange, interesting looking movie where a guy writes his Manic Pixie Dream Girl girlfriend? I want to see this. Yep. And I was either hoping it was going to go really hard and make her just the most clownish, ridiculous, awful version and just rub it in all of our faces that, like, this is a problematic trope. Look at how crazy that, no, why is this girl desirable? She's like dangerously spontaneous and irrational. But it wasn't really that. Like, he fixed that when she went too hard that way. And it didn't really examine why men crave this kind of woman either. And it could have done that a lot more. Or it could have just been like, if it was written by a man, which I kind of wish that it was and thought that it was when I first watched it, then it would have just been like, here's another dumb dude writing a fantasy girl that doesn't read as a real person at all, and he's trying to be self-aware about it, and he's failing.
Yeah. And then it would be so much fun to hate it.
Yeah.
It'd be worth watching to see, like, look how bad this take is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so... Yeah, and I know that Zoe Kazan was really offended when the Ruby Sparks was accused of being a manic pixie dream girl. It's like, isn't that the point of her? And how is that reductive when she's literally a reductive character that's a figment of his imagination? And she has all the characteristics. And she does make him... He doesn't even really grow as a person, though. Yeah. But she comes into his life and she's exciting. And what is it, Anthony, about why do men want these, like, extremely hyperactive women that just are a whirlwind of excitement? Like, why does this recur in men's minds? I don't understand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as a man, I don't know. I don't. I mean, it feels very intimidating and scary to me because I am not an extroverted person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not attracted to that in people.
The fantasy
normally.
of the extroverted girl.
I think what it is sad, lonely writer dude feels sad and lonely. So therefore he's probably an introvert. He probably doesn't have many friends. And then it's like, well, what if I had a girlfriend? And then what if my girlfriend made me go out? Made me extroverted, made me have fun.
Introduce me to friends.
Yeah, introduce me. Like, I think it's just like an angelic figure that tackles all the things a lot of normally sad, lonely guys feel.
Yeah,
like,
and they don't have to tackle it. The girl will do it for them.
And then they're like, like the warrior leading the charge. Like, we're going to this party and I'm awesome and don't worry, everyone's going to be looking at me and then you're going to be cool because you're with me.
Yeah, exactly.
And then therefore you have value because I'm valuable to every other male in this room or whatever.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's like a point of fascination.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just so weird because, like, in reality, it doesn't, like, at least in my perspective, it doesn't really happen like that.
Yeah, couldn't there be a fantasy girl who just wants to stay home? When is that character going to get written and become part of the consciousness?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds wonderful. Like, that's...
What is the opposite of a manic pixie dream girl that the new generation of fantasy boys, sad boys, could write? The introverted intellectual girl?
Yeah. Stable, intellectual, creative girl.
Yeah.
The one part of the phrase that, like, frustrates me is the pixie part. Like, what is that?
The skinny, like, model skinny, short, or just, like, delicate, flitting, effervescent, fairy-like thing. Again, it's sort of a physical trait. Yeah. That's the fantasy. The ideal female body is also a pixie.
Okay.
That's the way I think about it.
That makes sense. Yeah, all of it is gross. And then, I guess just briefly, we watched also the Manic Pixie Dream Boy.
Yeah,
and
video.
Just thought that was hilarious because it's also, mainly written by men, as most things have been in the past. And is just like a perfect dude.
Yeah.
And like that's the negative is it's a perfect dude because perfect dudes don't really exist that are emotionally adept and communicative.
Yeah. It's such a different trope. Watch the videos, the take videos. We can't go into it. We didn't do all that research to make those, but it is something that I really try to hold in my mind when I see a character like this. And I don't want to do the sexist reductive thing of writing her off as a person if she is a real person like Clementine was in Eternal Sunshine Or all those Katharine Hepburn characters from the olden days. Like, I don't want to write them off like, oh, she's just a manic pixie dream girl. She's just here for the man's growth. No, she's not. She's a real person with internality.
Yeah.
So it's too reductive and can be sexist. But I feel like in this movie, she was.
Yeah.
That's what she was. She was a manic pixie dream girl. And it was kind of gross, and it didn't land.
Yep. And then it's so weird. Like, imagine... Like, this is, like, one of my greatest fears is, like, I write about something, and then I get it all absolutely wrong. And then I'm like, fuck. And, like, this movie, there's literally a line where it's like, you didn't write a real girl. She's just an amalgamation of ideas, or, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, like, the film itself doesn't have any real characters.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even learn the lesson that they were trying to teach.
Yeah. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
That would... I would have to quit. I would have to burn everything.
Don't give up. Zoe Kazan didn't give up. She made that movie that you really liked.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. It's... Writing's hard, bro.
Yeah. Okay, so final question. Is this canon?
No.
You know?
No.
What about Manic Pixie Dream Girl canon?
I mean, she can go on the list for sure, but that's... No.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely not canon. Okay, so thank you all for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and if you could share us with your friends or family, as that really helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next week.
Cineverm.